Alright, so in this game, between two 9-downs on tygem, we have black going ahead and opening at the 4-4 point. We don't have anything unusual, just like the usual pro games that I go over. This game doesn't have anything weird like tengen or 4-6 points or anything bizarre like that. I have a slight aversion to such moves. We have your standard opening where black threatens to go orthodox, or if he really wants to play a little bit strangely, he can go ahead and still set up a kind of an odd mini Chinese that is available to him. Or you can go ahead and approach his opponent, which is what we see here. Now he does approach low rather than high, which is probably what is most commonly seen on KGS for some reason. Everyone always seems to like approaching high instead of low. As such, you might be a little unfamiliar with some of the Joseki here, especially in regards to the wide pincer. But if you are, you don't have to worry. We're not going to really get into much in the way of Joseki. Another reason why I picked this game is because I've been going over a lot of games that are influence oriented. This game is more fighting oriented, and I have had a couple of requests for more fighting type games. So I thought this would meet that demand fairly well. So we see white go ahead and put pressure onto black, but it's very far away. You can't really put any less pressure on your opponent and still deny him a base. I mean, you could go ahead and put even less pressure, but we still have room for a 2-space extension here, so very little pressure is actually being applied in this case. With this pincer, we don't have room for that 2-space extension. We can make a little 1-space, but that's no good. As such, typically moves we tend to see are either leaning or threatening to change directions. Something we'll get into later. For now, black says that he wants to go ahead and fight, and he approaches. Because another one of the reasons why we typically see this wide pincer for white is because it tends to try and build up on the other side of the stone more than it is attacking black. So I guess black decided, since white is threatening to build up there, he's going to go ahead, jump on in, and see what white wants to do as well. Now, I think everyone can guess the next move. It's fairly obvious. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Ideas for white? Any at all? I mean, there are essentially two options, I want to say. Alright, apparently I have more options than I was expecting. Alright, so you're saying either pincer, that would be a pretty strong reply. We're a little bit worried about F16. This feels like playing away, giving black enough strength to go back and do whatever he wants, and I'll go ahead and explain that in a minute. And of course, doubt comes through with C15. Thank you, doubt. Yes. Two options here most typically seen are either going ahead and pincering at A, because no matter what black does, there's not enough room between these two stones to go ahead and launch a counterattack. This group has a nice little base. Other option is to go ahead and just kick, as we're seeing in the actual game, because we can go ahead and strengthen our center stone at C9 when he gets a base, and by doing that, it's attacking both of black's groups. Because every time this C9 stone comes out, it's putting pressure on C14, and it'll be putting pressure on C5 as well. So we like doing things placing moves down on the board that are doing two things at once. We definitely like doing that. Real briefly, F16. Problem with that is now you're allowing your opponent to go ahead and get a base, further weakening your C9 stone. And now, for sake of argument, let's just say you go ahead and follow up by trying to attack black on the bottom. Well, now that black's got a nice little base at C14, and he's been made stronger at C5, you're going to be able to expect your C9 stone to come under severe attack. But in the game, we go ahead and see the kick. Black comes up. White takes his territory while keeping pressure on his opponent. Last thing we want to do is play away, and since I've seen this so many times, just randomly going in and out of games, looking at it in my my students' games, I'm going to go ahead and mention this, that you may feel tempted to go back and, you know, put pressure on these two stones, but if you do, I will warn you, you are allowing your opponent to go ahead and attach to your stones. Why is that severe? Because if we play through and try to kill, we find ourselves completely surrounded in the corner, which was the opposite of what we were just trying to do. We have made black insanely stronger here when we were trying to put pressure on him, so that wasn't very good. Let's go back and go to here. So yes, white does not forget to place F16. But now black has a choice. He can go back and try and get his base. See what white wants to do with that C5 stone. He could theoretically take his enclosure, I guess, but that'd be kind of weird, playing these stones and then playing completely away across the board. Or he can aid his C5 stone. He chooses to aid his C5 stone by leaning on white's corner. Now, I won't lie and say this is an easy variation. There are a lot of variations here that are extremely complicated. However, luckily enough, we're not going to see it. Yes, white attaches to the C5 stone. White also could have attached here and played variation like this, in which case we give black a very large wall to go back and attack our C9 stone. That would be a little bit complicated, because now white has to go back and figure out how are we going to get this stone out. I mean, even if we jump, we're still a little bit behind enemy lines. Well, at the very least, we're not ahead of black's insane wall, so you can go ahead and cap and attack us or do whatever. We wouldn't like that. Instead, white attaches to this stone to split, and instead of playing that dreaded D4 move, which is very, very complicated, black thankfully keeps the game a little bit more simple for us to understand, and decides to go ahead and Hane. Now, what we meant by Taisha and complication is this. Because now we have a bunch of different groups all fighting in the same area for life. This definitely gets complicated. Instead, it's relatively simple. Black's going to go and try and make himself a base. White extends. Black drops down. White has again their choice. He can go ahead and invite complication by playing at A, but that potentially allows black to push and cut through, since, you know, ladder's all good. So instead, white extends again. And just to show you what I mean, we can't try and kill this because of the ladder. So that gets into a very complicated variation where everything is again going to try to live. We have these four groups all struggling in the same area. Instead, white says, no, that's not going to happen. So black just lives in the corner. And here's the first of a few interesting moves. A lot of players might be tempted to go ahead and play c2, live in the corner. Black goes ahead and defends his cut point, because if he does, this is actually fairly nice for, the agi of this cut point, rather, is fairly nice for white. I mean, obviously we can't cut through immediately, because where does his ladder go? It kind of goes to a black stone, doesn't it? But the agi there is going to be very, very nice indeed. So black protects, also puts pressure on c9. White obviously takes Sente, and keeping black's base small. And this is where things get really, really aggressive from here on out. Because black has two stones that are under attack. White's got himself a group that doesn't quite have a solid base yet. There's agi with this f4 stone. So the last thing that we want to do as black is go ahead and play away and, let's say, enclose in the bottom right-hand corner, and allow white to start fixing his groups and or strengthening his attack on us. That'd be very, very unpleasant indeed. So black plays a real obvious move, and I'm sure everyone knows what the well, maybe everyone knows. A few of you might know what the real obvious move is. Anyone want to take a shot and guess what it might be? H4 is pretty obvious. Bad move. Jumping out is also very obvious. Alright. No, a real obvious move is first threatening to cut through, because it strengthens our stone. White probably doesn't want to get cut, so he's going to respond. Then we can go ahead and jump out. Now that we have ensured that white is not going to do anything fun like live locally. White has to make sure that he is out in order to live. White responds obviously by getting stronger, threatening to cut. And now black is faced with a dilemma. Because if we're not careful, white's going to go ahead and push and cut. At that point, the two stones at f4 are going to die. That would be a little bit unpleasant. So what do? Do we just make a bamboo joint? Do we play... J4 is interesting. J3 is interesting. All of these are ideas that I thought I was going to expect to see. H2 is also interesting, yes. All of these are moves that I thought I was going to see. Instead, black plays up. He's actually inviting the push and the cut. And I can only assume the reason why he's doing that is because that bottom right-hand side is still very open. If white wants to give black this wall here in Sente, I don't think black's going to mind. He's going to go ahead and welcome it. Again, my assumption. It is entirely possible that he expected to go back and actually try and save that stone. I guess that works too. And by that I mean playing this variation. But I don't think this looks very good for black in my opinion. Just running on the second line and getting all of his stones attacked. This seems, yeah, rather ick. I would expect to just see it, maybe play one more move, as I mentioned, just so we can go back and get something large on the bottom for ourselves. Well, actually, not that. Probably this instead, then, I guess. Alright, instead, black threatens to make a very large area for himself. White threatening to remove that area. That way, maybe he can go back and push and cut again and make sure that he's nice and alive. So, like an idiot, I was expecting something completely different. I thought that black was going to go ahead and defend himself with a pincer here to make that pushing and cutting variation a little bit better for himself. But no, I'm completely wrong. Instead, black actually responds by threatening to develop on the top of the board, allowing white to go ahead and get an attack on black stones. And when I saw this, I realized why I was wrong. Because now what we have, quite simply, oops, wrong tool, are two weak groups. Of course black's going to choose this variation. Why wouldn't he? I was thinking small and stupid. And this is why I like watching games from pros and suspected pros. It helps correct my line of thinking, especially in a game like this. So now that white's approached, obviously black's going to go ahead and finally defend, because there's no point of having two weak groups if one of them can live whenever he pleases. White responds by defending himself. And now the order of moves is very critical, because now on this board we've got a lot of different things going on. Just leaving the left side completely out of the deal. Completely forgetting about these stones for the moment. You can't see me moving my mouse. Let's mark the tool again. Completely forgetting about what's going on the left side here. We have to keep in mind that as black, we can go ahead and get some forcing moves against O3, and the reverse is true for white. We can go ahead and push up and get a wall here to settle ourselves. We have to keep in mind that white still needs to jump away. Or not jump away, but at least maintain outside connection in order to live, because he's not doing it locally. There's a little bit of a wide space here. We might be able to go ahead and come in. Not really certain if we can do that or not. But we can't do anything as long as this group is weak and being pushed around. So gotta threaten F5 group first. That's element C just said. Yes, we do. And to do that, black played a simple one-point jump, threatening to surround white. It's also threatening to go ahead and start putting white behind enemy lines. So we've got potential on both sides of this particular stone. White jumps out. And again, order of moves is very nice here. I thought immediately he would move to disconnect. That he would view this group and this group as separate and immediately move to keep these separate. Never let these two come in. Because if these stay separate and black gets strong in between them, then he can go back and draw out his weak group. But first he takes a forcing move. Why? Because if he gets the Hane, then white's two stones are in tremendous amount of trouble. So he gets to play his forcing move. Very nice timing, I thought. White has to defend. And then he gets to go back and separate white stones again. So, for the moment for me, this game had a lot of little things that I was wrong about. But those little things seem very, very large to me, if that makes any sense to you whatsoever. It gives you a nice order of priorities. Because if black, for example, omitted 04, and we got into this fight, and black lost Sente, then white can go ahead and extend up, and that's a very valuable move lost. So black's attaching to white stone. Why is he attaching? What can we expect from this attachment, in other words? There is a basic idea behind this move. What is it? A little bit more than splitting. Little bit more detail on leading attack there, duct tape. Robert T. begins to clarify, yes. Essentially, a lot of people are hesitant to play leaning attacks because they're always told not to attach to a weak stone. So they might dismiss this idea because by attaching to this weak stone, you're going to be making it stronger. And that they're always told is bad. And if you're just attaching for no other purpose, that would be true. But the problem with Go is there's all of these little conditions. Like, yes, making this group stronger by attaching to it might be bad in other circumstances, but right now we also want to attack the middle group. So if white wants to waste stones defending the left-hand side, black will be happy to get stronger and surround this group, which we've already said can't live locally. As a result, it should come as no surprise whatsoever to anyone here who understands this principle that white ignores it. He does not have time to respond to that attack. Now we have to judge the board again. Primarily in regards to this group. Is this group okay? Because if this group is fine, we can go ahead and profit and follow up our attachment. If it's not okay, then we need to defend it first. For that, we can see really quickly if we're behind weird enemy lines, and we kind of see that we're not. I mean, the edges are what? Here and here? We're kind of at this weird outer line, but we're still kind of peeking ahead of it, so we seem to be okay. We can't envision white surrounding us with one more move. So black goes ahead and extends. White obviously immediately responds by attacking that center group of blacks. Because again, no time to worry about C9, no time to worry about D12. Those are not the interesting stones in the fight. Right now the interesting stones are between these three groups. D10 did help them as a side effect. D10 helped what? The D14 stones? True. That Black got to follow up and play D10 does help his D14 stones, that's true. But yes, now we're being surrounded, time to run away. White doesn't want to be surrounded, he runs away. Black says, I'm still not behind enemy lines, I'm going to profit. Which now takes a lot of territory here on the left-hand side. Especially considering we go look for what White has for the moment. White's got this base, and not really sure how many, but he also has some points in the corner. So taking this left-hand side is fairly sizable. But here we get into the second interesting part of the game, because we find shapes that almost every last one of my student completely hates and will never ever ever play them. And that is this. Why are they so afraid of this particular shape? Because of this point. Obviously, this is threatening to cut through two different ways. But we don't see that here. We see Black just going ahead and trying to escape. And again, we see the exact same shape. We do not see the lean to escape. We do not see the attachment, which is sometimes what people play when they are afraid of playing the other shape because of the peep. We instead see the cap, and thus we see that little peep. So now the question is... Oh, sorry, I'm missing a question. Is White not strong enough to do the H6 cut? That will allow Black to get out. The minute you cut there, you're allowing Black to escape. And he's going to obviously escape right through that 2-space extension. At that point, White needs to turn around and live on the bottom of the board. Hope that Black doesn't get any influence, because the right-hand side will grow really, really large. Isn't K9 dangerous? That is a question that I was trying to figure out too. Because even though a lot of people are more afraid of this shape than they need to be, at this point I was kind of terrified of it. I don't think I would have made it, because I'm seeing this as being fairly strong. I'm seeing White with a pretty strong base nearby. That K8 peep seems troublesome, and White agreed. He peeped it almost immediately. He used, well, not almost immediately, he used the entire time, 20 seconds, Byoyomi again, to go ahead and play this. And I should repeat that. Again, this is a 20-second Byoyomi game. So I would like to think that Black read out the entire next variation in 20 seconds, because that seems really, really cool. Black connects. And now here's what makes this situation, at least it seemed to me, very, very dangerous. Because yes, White can come up, and Black's going to block. And we all know the attachment here is going to be very, very nice for Black, if White cuts. But White has another peep. So now what do we do? Because it's clear, if we don't kill something, we've lost the game. So we have to capture something to escape. White obviously was of the opinion that he can go ahead and cut through. White was of the opinion that black could not go ahead and cut through, whereas black apparently was positive that there was enough Aji for him to do so. What's F8? Oh, you want to get into a capture race? Yeah, okay. As Emiel actually said, first move black played is to go after that small knight. And now there's two ways of playing this. As it turns out in the actual game, neither one works for white. White chooses to play this variation, where black gets to Atari, and Atari, and Atari, and now it's a question of, can white live? Can white fight his way out of this? And given that we're staring at a ladder that's about to work, it looks like it can't. And the reason why it can't is because black didn't omit O4. If that stone was not on the board, this would be a completely different result. As it stands, white's got to respond, black gets to take, because there's no saving these stones. Yeah, it seemed like such a simple thing. Not a very good exchange there, Chemboy. Black is clearly getting a lot better of this result. And it's forced. I mean, after this point, he can't save everything. There's no way out of this to keep fighting. White has to go back in Atari. Black gets to take to remove Aji. Now there's a cutting point. White decides to live on the bottom. Black is happy enough to go ahead and force it. But choosing to live like this, though you get a few points, also gives black Sente. So he gets to play a large point. So right away it's clear that black's ahead. White's got a lot of influence now, but there's a lot of solid points on the left. There's nice development on the right. Only way to continue this game is for white development on the top of the board. So white tries to expand. Black simply takes his territory. He's not greedy and pincers. White tries to get greedy, so black comes in. Here he now has A or B to extend. So nicely placed. Given a lot of thought to how he's going to live. White says, stay out of my corner. So black goes ahead and takes his two-space extension. White tries to keep, or black takes a two-space extension, whatever I said. White tries to attack. And here's something else I thought was interesting. again, black is looking for his forcing moves first. He's threatening to connect up underneath. White decides to try and defend against that and attack. Black keeps connected. And now we have an interesting problem on our hands. Because if white follows, it opens up a cut point. Black can go ahead and connect on up. So instead, white Hane's here. Black responds. And now we realize we can't try and save everything. So he turns. White gets to go ahead and cut off. Forcing moves. Black connects up in Gote, however the center is extremely hard to hold on to. Especially when it's still open. It's open at A still, it's open at B still. Yes, it's a bit of a success for black, that's true. So it's no surprise that when black comes in at B, white immediately resigns, because he can't keep responding to this, and if he doesn't, he has no territory. Yeah, black is a very, very, very strong 9-dan on tygem. He does not lose often. And I actually had 2 of his games that I was going to go over, but I've only got, what, 20 minutes left? I kind of want to, because the ID of the next guy he plays against is just so arrogant. I want to show that game as well. Whoops, sorry. I don't know. I guess I have time to do it. I will go ahead and show that then. But I should probably do it in a new board so I don't get rid of these people's names. Yeah, I'll open up a new board, and though we're gonna run over the normal hour, I'll go ahead and show the game. Alright, and we're back. Hello. Get this lined up quickly. Alright, so essentially, in this particular game, we get to see him again as black. Versus white, and I'm not making this name up. A bit of an arrogant 9-dan, it looks like, judging from the name. Though, to be fair, I guess he's pretty good. I mean, he got through the 5-dan and 7-dan games undefeated, so he ranked up twice from those. That's kind of difficult to do. But, alright, right, so we have him as black again, Die already as white. Oops. That time I messed up the tree, sorry. The last game I didn't, so I want points for that at least. And this particular game, we don't see an approach on the opponent's stone, which we could see. We could go ahead and see something like this and go into a low Chinese or micro. Instead, we see orthodox. But white does something a little bit unexpected, and he goes ahead and encloses as well, which we don't typically see because it allows black to go ahead and get a very nice extension for himself while using his Q4 stone. So the entire right-hand side is working very, very nicely together. White expands, thinking to go ahead and get a nice large little bottom for himself. Black takes his territory, so it looks like we're having a little battle of the frameworks here. Because white goes ahead and takes his extension, and black goes ahead and again expands on the top. One of the reasons why I like watching black's games is they aren't all easy to follow, but he is a bit of a simple player. I don't think anyone, well, alright, life and death can get kind of complicated, but beyond that, he's a bit of a simple player, I think, in a lot of his games. I think up until the Peep last game, everyone was able to read out what he was doing, essentially. So, white backs off. Again, we have a framework build up. Very nice one for black, too. He's got extensions on both sides. P15? Go and reduce immediately. No, he doesn't do that. He goes ahead and defends, takes away one of his invasion points, threatens the corner. Yeah, you would think die already would be a little bit more impatient, but apparently not. White defends, and then expands, threatening to go ahead and make a large top for himself if white really wants to stick around and defend, which white is not going to do. He's not going to keep running black. He goes ahead and begins reducing, as element C said, P15. Very, very obvious. You can find this particular reduction in I don't know how many different Go books. Essentially, we're asking a choice here of black. Where do you want to go ahead and defend? Do you want to defend the top, or are you going to defend the right-hand side? Hello! You have not missed everything. I'm going over a second game. You did miss the first game, which I thought was a lot better than this one, though. But I am going to have a recording of this up at some point, if you want to go back and look at it. So black goes ahead and defends the right-hand side, so obviously white's going to go ahead and attach and try and reduce. Black honey, white throws in to sacrifice, idea being we can force black to capture and we're going to get some free moves to make some shape. Yep, pretty basic. White plays the Atari. Goes back and takes. Now, if K16 wasn't there, this might be a little bit better for white. Unfortunately, we can't really run that out, can we? No, we cannot. So white simply goes for shape. And finally escapes. I guess I can go with that real quick. I think Q16 was simply an asking move. I think the timing is really, really weird because the answer is obvious. I could only see doing that in a handicap game to see if white pulls or if black pulls the opposite direction. Then we get to reduce later. Since he didn't, we have Aji at this for later. And I guess he wanted to get it in immediately rather than wait. But black goes ahead and gets Sente now, obviously. He can connect underneath, he can still defend on top. He still has a corner open to him. So he decides to go ahead and invade. Trying to focus pressure on this particular group. Seems to be, aside from the top, it's one of White's weakest. He's only got 2 of them though, so I guess that makes sense. White attacks, forcing black to flee. And then white doesn't get impatient again. He goes ahead and defends, make sure that black can't go under, try and get any eye shape while stealing away white's base. Forcing black to flee again. White follows up, making sure that these two groups can't connect up very easily. Makes sense. Black gets some territory for himself, but it's also strengthening... It's also keeping himself disconnected. White peeps before connecting, or protecting, sorry. So white has forced black to still have to worry about his shape. Well, he can't leave those cutting points behind. That would be horrible. If he pushes again, I mean the cut's gonna be there. If I see. So black threatens to connect over. However, this isn't only threatening to connect. And this is why I like dual purpose moves so much, because it forces your opponent to figure out which is a more important stone. I mean, is he trying to link these two groups up? Sure, he is. However, this is also turning white's group behind enemy lines, and that's not a comfortable place to be either. Especially with very, very obvious shape points that we can have poked at. So rather than keep trying to attack black's 4 stones, which we have absolutely no idea if we can actually kill or not, white looks for his own safety first. Black says, safety, that's a very good idea. I can get behind some safety. White fixes his shape, threatens to invade. But black says, that's okay, you can reduce me there a little bit if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my F-17 stone's fine. See if I can't live in your corner. Fairly standard sequence. Black's got a choice. He can go ahead and connect, or he can live in the corner. He chooses to live in the corner. So white extends, sacrificing his 2 stones. And then goes ahead and plays a large point, trying to develop the left-hand side. Because he needs territory just as much as black needs territory, and black seems to have a lot of it on the right-hand side. So he needs to make sure that white doesn't do anything, or black doesn't do anything crazy, like, I don't know, try to invade at C7 or something. So the question now is, what are we going to do? What can we do? Can we invade? Is that a good idea? Why was E18 omitted. He could drop down right now, true. And that would probably be Sente. But by doing that, he's also going ahead and saying that he's not interested, as Kimboy had just mentioned, that he wants to play C15, because right now that's going to be Sente, or E18 is going to be Sente. And right now, he doesn't know which one he wants to play. So instead, he goes ahead and tries to take an area large on the left-hand side. And this is not exactly Gote. It's not like he's playing a Gote move, a large Gote move elsewhere for points. Because Black, keep in mind, has this really, really annoying two-space extension here and here. So to say that Black is completely connected up, it would be a horrible overstatement. This is still very, very vulnerable, which is why we see Black go ahead and defend. Make sure that White can't isolate him. Because if he can, then the rest of the left-hand side is just going to fall to Black, or fall to White. Because Black will have absolutely no chance to invade that if he's running around trying to live. White picks, and then expands. Now that is definitely a very, very large area he's trying to get for himself. And Black apparently seems to enjoy that. That is the question. How much Aji is there? That is a lot of influence. Well, potential territory, really. But the question then becomes, if it's too thin, how do we try to reduce this area? Black starts without some simple shape points. White says, thank you, I'll eat that too. So Black resumes some shape points, threatening to go through Small Knight. White keeps him from getting a base. Yes, nicely timed there, Kemboy. White says die already. Maybe that's why he does it. Maybe he's an influence player and a lot of people have their invasions killed by them. I don't know. But this is definitely a very difficult area to live in. There's a lot of white stones in the area. So he tries to go ahead and cut through the other Small Knight. White says, no, you're going to stay in. So Black again attaches for strength. If we get strong enough, we might be able to go ahead and cut. There are two types of tygem 9Ds, though. I mean, you do have a lot of amateur players who are at 9-dan on tygem, and then you have people like Black, who you probably could never win against. Even though he, as well, is a 9-dan. He's, I don't want to say he's obviously professional, but I'm fairly certain he's professional. And a fairly good one, considering he tends to win a lot of his other games against other professionals. So White divides. I would be kind of surprised if it was as low as KGS 7D. Because I remember, who was it? I forget the user. Who was a 9-dan here on KGS and struggling to maintain a 9-dan on tygem. I would tell you why I say that, but I'd be giving too much away. Anyway, Where was I? Oh, right. White went ahead and cut. Black tries to go ahead and push through. Now we would like to go ahead and block and keep him in and kill this, but that's getting a little bit unrealistic. Because you have to figure that if you do not get rid of this stone, and you instead say, okay, this is so gonna die, the cut point here now is becoming a little bit of a problem. There's just way too much Aji here. So black gets to extend, but he's still not connected up. Goes ahead and cuts through, but white can easily go ahead and get that stone out of there and defend it. However, we're slowly starting to get some eye shape. I mean, we can picture the attachment, we can see the Hane. So we've just about got ourselves one eye. Extends for Aji. Yeah, too bad it takes 2 to live. White tries to keep this dead as well, giving black some Aji. Extends, takes, but that eye isn't enough. Still a little bit false, so we don't have to worry. Well, it can turn into an eye if it gets 2 more elsewhere. But unfortunately it's white's turn, so he plays some forcing moves. Make sure he's not going to get disconnected. Like I said, that cut point's turning dangerous. Black keeps looking for life. White clamps to make sure that his group's going to be safe, because keep in mind, we're now under severe attack here. Black gets to go ahead and extend, because cutting through is very bad for white at the moment. He loses 3 stones. Forcing moves. We can go ahead and finally get an eye. That's half the battle over. Asks for another one. White says, no, no eye there. So he tries to connect up. Just go ahead and kill the stones that are causing a problem. White cuts through. Black attempts to connect up. White tries to disconnect, but unfortunately that doesn't work, does it? There's no way to safely play g4. That stone or the one at f5 will just get captured. You want to play this, Robert T? That would be an interesting choice. That would be an interesting choice indeed. Yeah, I was about to say that, but what are you going to threaten? Of course you'd ignore everything, yeah. Not only are you going to ignore everything, but after you've actually filled this is going to get really, really ugly. Because this Hane is kind of painful. Yeah, there's nothing large enough. I mean, that's pretty much all of White's territory that's gone. And White doesn't have a move that's going to single-handedly destroy the entire right-hand side. So White has no choice but to go ahead and resign. Because he can't fight the Ko. Other than F5? Oh, was there? I'm sorry. To try to disconnect him? I don't think so. I mean... Doot, that's not gonna work. Cutting through there is going back to a Ko, it looks like, and that looks like more steps. F6 instead of F7? Let's go back and look at that then. F6 instead of F7. Ah, that one. And play F6 instead. Doot. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Throw in first. Yeah. And we've established that Ko is not going to work for White at all. So we could probably go ahead and play this way pretty easily. Oops, not that. Stupid. And again, what else could he play? Yeah. Well, no. Because if you do that, it doesn't really matter. Because you can go ahead and defend it, and if we can't connect, it's not going to matter. Especially since Ko goes and favors you. True, G4 would be better, it looks like. So what else could we do if he plays that? Doot. Oh, that works. Derp. I missed that immediately. It's all that you need. D5 doesn't matter, because you can't connect. So yeah, either way black's fine. So yeah, that's Very tough life, yes. Just completely ruined everything White was trying to build up. But either way, this guy was on a roll playing a bunch of games last night, and looking at him, I just had to share them with you guys, a few of them with you guys. Because Black is a very strong player on tygem. I definitely like watching him. And now that you know how to spell his name in English, if you're on tygem, I would go ahead and take a look for him. If you see him on, if you see him playing, I would definitely... It's right there on the board there. If you have the English client, that's what's going to come up. So if you're on tygem and you see him playing, I definitely take a peek into his games and see how he's doing, because he does not lose very often. But yes, I hope you enjoyed these two games.